So Searching was directed by Anesh Giganti and it stars John Cho and Deborah Messing. And it's about this widowed father who's the father of teenage daughters, played by John Cho. And when his daughter Margot goes missing, he enlists the help of a detective played by Deborah Messing to kind of figure out what is going on exactly. And he uses her computer, he uses all these different technologies to try to find her, try to look her up, and try to see what's going on. And basically, that's the movie. So this is a movie that I remember when it came out back in 2018. I was not looking forward to it at all. It had the same style of film as Unfriended, which was just on computer screens. And while it's like, okay, that's an interesting method, that movie itself wasn't that good. But I was not really looking forward to this movie. It looked like it was going to be another Unfriended. And I remember seeing this movie back when it came out in 2018. And I remember being blown away by this movie. And I figured with the spin off movie or spiritual sequel in a way, Missing, coming out this weekend, I figured, why not go back and talk about Searching? Because this is a movie that isn't really talked about a whole lot, and I kind of want to talk about it. So, what did I like about this movie? Well, the acting, particularly from John Cho, is really good. John Cho probably gives his best performance in this movie. You can definitely feel his character, and you can definitely feel his emotions, even when he's not on screen. You're definitely curious to see what is going on with his daughter, and it's a fantastic performance. Deborah Messing also gives a fantastic performance too. Normally she's known for her television work, and here she's actually really good in the movie, especially when you do find out the twist involving her character, which the movie's been out for about 4 years now, so you kind of know it's her involved with the whole thing all along, and it was really good, like kind of looking back at it and kind of seeing like her trying to act like this cop who's trying to investigate, and yet you know that she's not actually investigating. She's actually trying to dissuade John Cho's character. So I thought she did a really good job too. And I also like how this movie tackles a lot of different subject matters, like how we are in person versus how we are online. I think that is a really interesting way the movie handles it. Like, okay, so she may be reserved in real life, but online, like David's daughter Margot, she's kind of reserved in real life. She doesn't really have a whole lot of friends. She can't really talk to anyone. She doesn't really talk to her dad about her mom, who sadly passed away. And she's also kind of like online and kind of like being friendly and kind of being, you know, extroverted a bit online. And I do think that's really interesting. And it basically shows both sides of the internet, how damaging it can be and how helpful it can be, because we see how David uses computers to look up all this information that he may not have known before. But at the same time, it shows like how bad things can go on the internet, how things can get twisted and distorted and just kind of take a life on its own. And I think that's really well handled. And also how people use these tragedies to kind of gain popularity, because earlier in the movie we see John Cho talking to a bunch of his daughter's classmates, and they're like, oh, we didn't really talk to her. She was kind of a loner. We didn't really know her. But then when her search becomes more public, they're all crying. They're all upset. They're saying she was such a good friend. And I was like, that was the moment where I knew this movie was actually doing something different. And I'm like, thank God this movie talked about that, because I thought that's something that people never really talk about. And I'm glad this movie finally addressed it. And also, the storyline is just completely unpredictable. I love going back to this movie and kind of like going to see like new clues to the movie, like to the final reveal that it was the police detective and her son all along. And I kind of like going back to movies like this that, you know, they have clues planted throughout, and I kind of like seeing it from that new perspective. And I think Searching does that really well. There are a lot of great scenes, like the opening scene where it's like there's not much happening, where you see, you know, you see John Cho, Margot, and John Cho's wife in the movie. And unfortunately, she passes away, as you see. I thought it was really well done. It doesn't really, there's not a whole lot shown, but it does advance the plot a lot. And also, I really like that search with the YouTube videos after the Margot search goes public. That was really well done. Again, when the kids are like, "Oh, we love Margot" and all that. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie too. And I also really like how they kind of explore paranoia and grief. Like in the movie, John Cho, he becomes more paranoid. He begins seeing like things that maybe could be misconstrued as something different, like when he accuses his brother of doing something horrible to Margot towards the end of the movie. That was really well done. And I also kind of like the real feel to it. I kind of think because of the style it's done, it actually has a more real effect, and I think that makes it more impactful. And also, lastly, the humor in this movie It's not a whole lot. Thank God there's not a whole lot. But when the jokes do happen, they actually work. Like there's a scene where John Cho's really interrogating someone who's off screen. It's like, where were you that night? Where were you that night? And then it cuts to him just going, Justin Bieber concert confirmed. Like that was funny. Someone else mentioned that they were going on to a 21 Pilot concert, and that was like the best concert they've ever seen. And I'm like, that was hilarious to me. It's not funny. It's not like so ha ha funny, but like when it is being funny, it can be really funny, but it doesn't really. It's not a comedy because it doesn't distract from the main storyline, which is trying to find this guy's daughter. So overall, I do think Searching is a really good movie. I mean, I do have a couple nitpicks if I'm being honest with you. Um, First off, Margot isn't really seen that much, unfortunately. She's shown at the beginning, you see her growing up through the years, but you actually don't see Margot at the very end, and I kind of wish that we did see her at the very end, kind of showing that, she's alive, and well, yeah, we do see a picture and all, but I kind of would have liked to have seen, like, her kind of, like, interacting with her dad a bit. I feel like that would have been a little bit better. And also, it was kind of distracting because the movie has a lot of social media usage, and, like, it uses real social medias, like, oh, there's Facebook, oh, there's YouTube, oh, there's Twitter and Instagram and all that. And then they have a fake one, which I don't know if that was a rights issue or anything like that. With UCast, which is the one that's kind of the main one that's kind of used throughout the entire movie. So it's kind of distracting to hear all these like real social media sites, and then the one that's being used for the majority of the movie is one that was made up for the movie. Again, kind of distracting. And also, I guess I kind of didn't really care for the cliffhanger ending that much. We don't know if she actually goes into the conservative music class or whatever, the music college or whatever. That could have been left out entirely, but again, the main focus was the whole relationship between John Cho and his daughter and kind of like how they rebuild after what had happened, and also the mother's death because they never really recovered from that. But overall, I do think Searching is a movie that it was really surprising when I saw it back in 2018. I've seen it multiple times now. I do think it's a really solid movie. And, I think John Cho's incredible. I like the issues it talks about. And I do like a lot of the scenes. I do like the unpredictable storyline. And I guess I just don't really care for some of the nitpicky things like, oh, I wish we saw Margot again, and the whole how they handle social media and like which ones they bring up, which ones they kind of make up. It was a bit distracting, but overall, Searching is a fantastic thriller. Definitely one of my favorite movies of the last few years. I really enjoyed this movie. I'll give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what did you think of Searching? Also, what's your favorite thriller of the last few years? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.